Hi again to everybody. Thank you to be here. I will say some introductory word before to start. I see some of you already participated to the previous webinar. Just a few words to remember that this webinar take place within the PlaceOut project. PlaceOut is a project co-funded by European Union about the building dialogue between the youth grassroots organization and local institution in European non-urban areas. Namely, PlaceOut is focused on spaces regeneration process, and this webinar is part of a vast cycle of webinar which want to go deep about the process of regeneration of spaces from different perspectives. Today webinar, it's about what we call the culture and art-led regeneration process. So we thought it would be interesting to go deeper, to explore some experience and also some theory about those processes of spaces regeneration that are that leverage cultural and artistic activities as a center of, as I said, regeneration and reactivation of spaces. So I want to thank the speaker of today, and I'm happy to leave the stage to Alessandra Zagli, which is the Vice President of Lama Impresa Sociale, which will lead the today webinar.
Thank you, Stefano. Hi to all of you. I will share my screen. Yes. Okay, let's have a look to the training agenda of today. After a brief introduction, we will have the chance to go through several case studies of culture and art-led projects in non-urban areas. And you will have the chance to listen to those experiences and then also asking them questions if you want to go deep, if you want to deep some aspects, but you will have the chance to also deep more aspects in an expert corner that we will have at 5 almost. So after an hour of webinar, we will have those breakout rooms in which every one of you will have the chance to also to speak directly to the speakers. In fact, Jose wrote to you this morning to ask you to fill an Excel file to book your slot, let's say, for this expert corner. For those who didn't do it, I can copy the link. Wait a moment. The link of the file.
It's in the chat, Alessandro. I read it.
Okay, thank you. You already copied it. And I ask you, please, to go in this link. And as you can see, you have these speakers, the name of the speakers. I will present them, introduce them in a minute. But now I ask you to write your name in these rounds for the expert corner. So of course, the first round, you can choose one of them, one of these 4 speakers. And in the second round, one of the other, and in the third round. So you will have the chance to speak to 3 out of the 4 speakers. We needed to better divide the breakout room at the moment at 5 o'clock. So while you are booking your slot, I continue to present the agenda. share screen. Maybe I can find. Oh, yes. Wait a moment, I have technical problem. Sorry. Okay. So we have these fantastic speakers today that are going to tell us about their experience in non-urban areas. One, it's me. I'm a vice president of Lama, and I will tell you about an experience that we've done with two little municipalities, supporting them in elaborating a development strategy that is based on culture and art. And then we will have Mark Rotma Jackson. I don't know if he's already connected in the call. Maybe if it's not, I ask Martina if she can write to him to remember to connect. Then we have Martina. Mark is the director of Lunga School, which is an artist led experience in Ireland. It is a very special school, and then Mark will tell us about it. Martina, which is one of my colleagues, and she's a cultural manager of Lama. She is responsible of the Adimora project, which is an artistic residencies experience in this Florentine mountain, in which we are running a big project now. And then we will have Marcus Lampe, project manager from Trans-Europe Palace. Hi, Marcus. Thank you for being here. And Trans-Europe Palace is a big network, European network of grassroots cultural spaces. And then Marcus will tell us about this very interesting experience and what which kind of spaces also are part of this network that maybe are interesting for us.
Sorry, Alessandra, we can't see the slide at the moment. We see a black page, so maybe you can try to share again the screen.
Interesting.
No.
Can you see it now?
Perfect. Yes, thank you.
Yeah, this was my best slide. Okay. Anyway, so to begin, to start, to let's say warm the webinar, I want to start with an introduction about the topic, about culture and creativity, what they role in and for non-urban areas. And I choose to start with this quotation from two Italian musicians. Non-urban areas are those places where nothing happens, and where if you want something to happen, you should do it. It's a big chance. So this is to start to say something very important for us, that is of cultural initiatives are urban focuses, are urban centric, and this it's something that ignore, let's say, the big potential that is in non-urban areas. In fact, those areas are full of locations and venues that often are more available and accessible than in urban center, but also, and more important, those areas are good places also for inspiration, for creative work, and also for open spaces, open settings for cultural initiatives. But more important, in these places, leaves people also that are not often, that have not often access to culture, to, for example, we need to involve them as audiences also. We need to participate more with them. We need to involve them. Also, cultural association live, let's say, more isolated, and they don't have a lot of opportunities compared to the urban ones. So we think that capitalizing upon this potential need to have, let's say, a shift of our mindset, and sorry, and for example, concentrating in two ways in which culture is fundamental. The first one is the potential or actual already contribution that culture might have for the development agendas of these non-urban areas. And the other one is the inherent value and importance of culture per se. And we founded this in a document that it's called The Role of Culture in Non-Urban Areas of the European Union, which was drafted by the Goethe Institute and Voices for Culture in 2020. And then already they realized, of course, these two, let's say, points, very important points. And in this document, it's written that culture and creativity should be treated not solely as a sectoral theme, but as a cross-cutting or transversal dimension of cohesion policy where culture and creativity needs to be recognized and incentivized as a part of a place-based approach to the regional development of EU territories. So maybe in this quotation, you can find a lot of concepts, let's say, that you have already heard in the other webinar of Place Out, for example, the cohesion policies, the place-based approach, no? They are all concepts that are very important while we're talking to non-urban areas, because when we think about development strategies of these areas, we are thinking about very different areas. So we cannot have a unique strategy to work with them, but we need to elaborate them with a place-based approach that means working with communities, finding ways together with the territories to define what is the best strategies, because they are very different. Also in Italy, already in Italy, especially in Europe as a whole. So when we talk about culture, often we mean a sector of the economy. You know, culture is often treated as a consumption good. When we go to theater, go to cinema, experience some kind of initiative like that. But culture is the most effective platform for behavioral change in human history. And this is not rhetoric, this is the reality, because culture is more than a consumption good, is a stimulus. Is something that can bring us to move forward, to change our paradigm, to change our behavioral, our behaviors. And for example, see the Greek theater, no? It was one of the first experience that we know, because we have literature as a laboratory for counterfactual experimentation, meaning that when we see stories in plays, in theater, we can experience something that we don't really experience in our life. And it was it was powerful, very powerful for as a laboratory of moral cognition. For example, what happens if I kill my son? What happens if I do sex with my mother? The theater, the Greek theater, was the first on the ground on which people in communities realize what can happen when something go in some ways in your life without doing it in reality, no? So the power of stories and the power of culture and art in this sense is a big one, and we don't realize what we are and what we would have, but art and culture can expand our imagination and can challenge our common sense. And but we have forgotten this because we began to think that culture is only suitable for leisure time. So this is the way in which culture can be can be seen, can be experienced, entertainment, consumption good, at opposite of stimulus and imagination. And we know that in non-urban areas, often we see communities and territories that really need to rethink themselves, really need to move forward from their destiny, let's say. So in this way, culture can be really the lever of rethinking development strategy. And the new European agenda for culture is really focused on this. I suggest you to go to this document and see how much culture is a lever for doing things really not non-sectoral but transversal in the development of the communities. The last point is about cultural welfare. There are a lot of experimentation in this, in which culture is being used for, let's say, treat some illness also, no? Especially certain type of problems related to depression or anxiety, and really it realized that cultural experiences works better than medicine sometimes. So when we work with these isolated communities in this rural area, we often meet a group of people that suffer from this kind of problems. So culture has this also important role. So in conclusion, there is a clear role for policy at all levels to recognize the potential of culture for such territories, and there is a clear opportunities for creators, for communities, for supporters, and also for cultural operators to work on this in these areas. Let's skip to the first case, let's say, that I bring at the center of the table. It is about culture-driven local development strategy. Yeah, because since 2021, we started working with two measures in very internal areas in Italy, at 40-50 kilometers from Florence, and they asked us to work. Sorry, this slide is in Italian. The municipalities are Londa and San Godenzo, and they are the door of this natural park in the center of the Apennines. And it is a very beautiful place, but they are suffering from for the population and also the old age of the population. And so they have at one front this kind of weaknesses, and at the other a richness in terms of cultural heritage, so natural, and and so they ask us to draft a strategy. They call it the Book of Dreams. What we can do in these places to bring them forward, to bring them out of this kind of trap in which they are. And we wrote a very big strategy with hardware intervention, meaning intervention in physical spaces. They have a lot of spaces that need to be regenerated and renovated. And in the strategy also, there were some important interventions that were non-material, let's say software. For example, cultural programs, artistic residencies, services for people that lives in the areas. So this big strategy was at the basis of 3 years of application in funding programs. The first one was the Resilience Fund, but there were other European program and also national program. And this slide that you see is a slide that was drafted in 2021, but and you see that the goal was to collect 12 million of euros to do all those interventions. And we realized in those 3 years that these strategies was fundamental, because they already collected more than 7 million to do those kind of interventions. And without these strategies, they never were able to do this. So sorry, one moment. I would like to show you another thing about this case. Here you can see the territory, just some images about these places to better realize which kind of territories we are working. And there are a lot of, let's say, knowledge in terms of food and artisans and so on. There are places, very special places. And when we started to help them to apply to several calls, we realized that, okay, it's good to work with the measures, and in this kind of community, they are very near to the people, no? We are talking about communities that are formed by, for example, 1,000 people, one municipalities, and 1,080 in the other one. So less than 3,000 people in these big territories in terms of kilometers. But we realized that it's okay to work with measure, but we need to involve the communities. We need to work with them also to make this strategy really efficient in terms of development. And so we started to a little project inside this big strategy, and was Montagna Prossima, the name. It was participatory processes in which we work with the communities to design also the details of all those interventions. Now we are in the middle, let's say, of the realization of this strategy, and one of the non-material tools and instrument is the platform, the web platform, montagnafiorentina.com, which is conceived as a unique access point to all the information of the area, both for visitors, but also for inhabitants. And also one of the intervention is the Adimora program, which Martina will explain to us after the next speaker. But yeah, now we can say that this kind of experience is really rare, because we started to work with a lot of municipalities in internal areas, but they are not, let's say, it's not so simple to develop those kind of strategies, and it's not so common, but it's very useful for collecting resources to renovate spaces, to make them work and with this contents of culture and art. So those are my points. I don't know if you have questions. Do we have the next speaker? No.
Alessandra Mark still not arrived, so we can skip and go to the
okay.
Which maybe is Marcus, the next one.
Yes, please, Marcus. I leave the floor to you.
Okay, thank you. Are you running the presentation, or should I share the screen from my... So, hey, thank you for inviting me. My name is Marcus Lampe, as introduced, and I'm working for this network called Trans-Europe HAL. And I'm working mainly as a project leader for various projects that we run for our network. I'm also coordinating a few of our hubs. I will talk a little bit more of that later, but basically our members are grouping into different working groups based on where they are located or where the themes or topics that they are working on. So Trans-Europe HAL is a network of cultural centers that are residing in repurposed buildings. So a lot of our members are residing in sort of old industrial buildings, or more lately we also see members residing in more old military complex buildings, and more lately even commercial building like shopping malls, etc. Yeah, you can go to the next slide. Trans-Europe HAL is turned 40 years old last year, so it's a quite old network. I believe it's one of the older cultural networks of Europe. So it started in 1983 in Brussels when a man called Philippe Grombert, he and some friends, they took over this building that you can see here in the picture. It's called Halle de Schaerbeek in Brussels. And at that point, this was kind of pioneering to take over old industrial buildings and turning them into cultural spaces run by communities and not by the public sector in a way. So what he did was that he wrote handwritten letters to a lot of other similar initiatives that they had heard about around in Europe. And there were 7 cultural centers or representatives from cultural centers around Europe that answered his letters. And then they had the first meeting of what then later became Trans-Europol. Yeah, we can go to the next. So from that point, the network has grown into 163 members in over 40 countries. And our head office is based in Lund in Sweden, south of Sweden. And so that's where I'm also based. And the way this network has grown has been initially the members came mainly from Central Europe or Northern Europe. So the Scandinavias, Belgium, Spain, France, Germany, and so forth. The sort of the second wave of members came more and more from the south of Europe, so Spain, Italy, Greece, etc. And today we see the network is primarily expanding towards the east of Europe and the countries that are neighboring to the EU. So it's not all of our members are based in the European Union, but we also have quite a few members in Turkey, Azerbaijan, Georgia, Ukraine, for example. And these are some numbers from our latest big data collection. We are currently conducting another one, but and I would say that the numbers would probably be quite a bit higher today because the network has grown quite a lot in the last years, almost doubled in the last 10 years. So. But from 2019, the network was made up of 500,000 square meters of cultural space, around 70 million euro in combined annual turnover, and around approximately 2,000 staff, 2,000 artists, and 2,000 volunteers were active in this network. And in 2019, our members hosted over 5 million visitors in over 14,000 public events. So there's a lot going on in this network. As you can imagine, a lot of members doing a lot of different things. They all have different reasons for taking over a space and what they want to use the space for. And it's also a big variety in how they run their spaces in terms of economical models and so forth. Some are more or less self-sufficient. Other ones are more reliant on public funding, let's say. So often the way our members started was that they found a space, maybe it's looking like this in the picture, and they fell in love. A lot of people would maybe disregard these type of worn down industrial buildings that might need a lot of work to get them to function as a public space. But within our network and the community, these are the type of spaces where they see potential to do something, and often these abandoned spaces. So you could say that the network has kind of grown through 3 waves. And so our first members, you would say that they took over buildings, industrial buildings, as a result of that the industries were moving out of Europe, leaving a lot of these huge buildings behind without any real purpose. And a lot of the sort of local governments didn't really know what to do with these buildings. So in either the communities squatted. They just took over these buildings by themselves, or they negotiated with the local governments and were allowed to use the buildings in either before they were going to be turned into something else, or just by proving that they could revitalize these spaces, they have been allowed to continue to use them, sometimes for free, sometimes they are renting them from private companies or the local governments. The second wave, you could say, is the coming kind of from the Cold War, when so the demilitarization was happening in Europe. So a lot of the military complexes were also left abandoned. So you see a lot of our members also residing in those type of buildings. And as I was mentioning, something we see today is, since a lot of people are shopping online, a lot of commercial centers are also being left abandoned at the moment. So if you are looking for a space, these are 3 types of spaces that might be interesting for you to look into. So here follows just a few photos of to get some idea of what kind of spaces are part of our network. So this is Kulturfabrik in Luxembourg. You can kind of run through these photos a bit quickly. Here we have A38 in Budapest, located on the river. And this is art platform Tardino, in Baku, Azerbaijan. This is IFAS Center in Bromölla, also located in the south of Sweden. It's an old ceramics factory that they actually bought themselves. Now they own the building. And it's, I believe it's the world's biggest outdoor gallery at the moment. And here we have another Swedish member, Rada Sten, Konsthall in Gothenburg, which were an old storage factory or storage unit for shippings. Here is another Swedish member in the south of Sweden. Mejeriet is an old milk factory turned into a music venue. So yeah, maybe you get a sense of a lot of our members. You would probably be considered sort of alternative spaces. They are run by the civil society. They are, meaning that they are not run by the cities or the public administrations in any way. So they are independent cultural centers, and they decide in the end how they want to run their centers with their communities, etc. Yeah. So one of the main things that we do in this coordination office where I work is that we are developing more large-scale European projects that benefit our members in different ways. And a lot of the funding that we get is coming from the Creative Europe that you might have heard about. It's the biggest sort of funding program for arts and culture from EU. So we are one of the networks that get a network grant, which covers our sort of network-wide activities and structures. For example, we are having network meetings twice a year, which you are will be in Estonia, in Tartu, in end of May. So these are open events that anyone can participate in. And we also run different kinds of staff exchange or sort of knowledge exchange programs between our members. I would say this is one of the main reasons that these centers are joining our network, is that they might feel quite alone in their own city, even in a big city. I would say in an urban area, these type of spaces are usually quite rare. Maybe there are 1 or 2 or 3 in a big city, but tend to not be that many. And so the connection and exchange with other similar minded people is, I would say, one of the main reasons these organizations join our network. Then we run other big projects under Creative Europe around the more specific themes like diversity and inclusion, sustainable building practices, for example. We also run a few projects under the Erasmus program, focusing more on youth and a sort of vocational training or adult education through arts and culture. Our network is divided, like I mentioned, into different working groups. We call them hubs, and there are thematic or regional. So we have hubs in the Nordic, Baltic region. We have one in the sort of Eastern region, Eastern Europe, and the neighboring countries outside of European Union. We have the Mediterranean hub, for example. And thematic hubs, we have a youth hub focusing on youth work and sort of youth policy. We have another one for democracy and so forth. So you can find this on our website if you want to learn more about the different working groups and projects that we run through in the network. Yeah. Can take the next one, or maybe that was the last one. Yeah. So yes, this is France Europe Hall in short. Yeah, I think I'll leave it open for questions.
I have a question, Marcus. Do you have a lot of spaces also located in non-urban areas, or most of your spaces are located in the cities?
I don't have an exact number, but definitely I would probably say that the majority are in non-urban areas. So quite a lot of our members are in quite remote areas. And I think especially for these members, it's especially important to use the network in order to exchange with others and learn from their experiences, definitely. And also on our website, you can there is a map where you can look for our members. So you can look if there is a member close to where you live, for example, and maybe contact them and get some inspiration for how they set up and how they did when they first started their center.
Cool. Thank you, Marcus. Okay. Next is Martina.
Hello, everyone. Just give me a moment to share if I know how to do that, but I'm sure I here we go. Can you see my screen?
Yeah.
Yes.
Wonderful. On the first try. I'm very glad. Okay, so hi everyone, and thank you for joining us today. I'm Martina. Like Alessandra said before, I work for Lama. I'm a cultural mediator, and I coordinate the cultural and artistic projects that Lama takes on. Alessandra gave you a small hint of what I'm going to talk about to you today, which is A Dimora. And like the title says, it's the first artistic residency of Montagna Fiorentina. Just a small disclaimer, I'm not sure if anyone is familiar with the term artistic residency. If not, don't worry, it's okay. And I will just give you a small description so that we are all on the same page, and then it can be a little bit more of help. So basically, an artistic residency is a project promoted by a cultural institution or a public administration. It could be public or private, it doesn't matter, that takes on artists and helps them with different means. Could be a cash prize, it could be a studio space, but basically it's the gift of resources, so time and a place to work. It could lead to a project, it could lead to an artwork, or it could just be for research. But that's basically how it works. And the most ephemeral part is the network. So whichever enterprise or institution promotes the cultural and the artistic residency also gives the artist an opportunity to meet new people, to encounter different professionals in different areas and sectors. And so that's one of the most important part of the artistic residency. So Adimora is part of what Alessandra told you about earlier. So it's part of the Montagna Fiorentina project. So here's a small map to help you just locate the space. We are around 40 minutes drive from Florence in Tuscany. So it would be the center part of Italy. Adimora is a 3-year artistic residency. We had our first edition last year, so 2023, and it will last for 2 more editions. Basically, it invites 3 artists to live in Londra, in the municipality, for let's say, well, a medium amount of time. The first edition took hold the whole summer, so from June to August, and the next this year it will be in June and July. And the artists are invited to do a specific work. So they're invited to research, but we guide them to think and to reflect on the 2 main pillars that we think are important. So that would be the connection, the relationship between the urban and the natural environment, because like Alessandra told you before, we are the municipality is surrounded by nature, but also they are invited to think and rethink and restore some sort of cultural identity of the place. So we give them this kind of guidelines, to work through. So starting from what I said before about what an artistic residency is, I would say, so we're giving them a time, so the summer, a space, they have a home and a studio place in the municipality of Londra. And we're also giving them a cash prize of 5K to help them navigate these months working there. So they have to eat and go around and meet new people. And like I said before, the most ephemeral, but the most important part is we're giving them a network. So we're working and helping them, contacting people, meeting local enterprises, but also the public administration itself, but also people just like one-to-one, I would say. And so this is another beautiful picture. This actually was taken by one of our artists. Alessandra already told you about the surroundings, so I'm just gonna leave the picture a couple more seconds so you can see what we're talking about when we talk about nature. And this is actually the most important, I would say, slide of my presentation, and the most important question you should ask yourself when you're structuring this kind of work. So what's it about? So while we were thinking about Adimora, we were trying to answer the question, what does Adimora talk about and what's it about, And so Adimora, for the non-Italian speakers, means to put a plant permanently into the soil. But dimora is also an ancient way of saying casa, home. So this is how we started, and we wanted to embrace the biggest framework of Montagna Fiorentina, thanks to the whole Lama team. And we managed to, let's say, to find 4 pillars, which we would like the residency to talk about. So the pillars would be the physical spaces and redevelopment areas, ecosystem services and mountain care, intangible cultural heritage, and community enterprises and new economic models. So how do we tackle them on an artistic way, on a cultural, way? To do that, we discovered, we thought that the most important part would be to promote research for the artists, but also to strengthen a big community bonding. So we wanted the artists to really manage to get in touch with the community, to engage with them. And so our work there is to be bridges, is to be facilitators, and to help them and to help the artists manage their way, find their way into this community, because they don't want to be perceived as aliens, coming from a different space, and people don't want to be perceived that, in some sort of voyeuristic way. So to do so, in practical terms, on one hand, we promote spontaneous and informal meetings. So we go to the local bar and have coffee and chat with the people. We go to dinner to different places and restaurants, but also we schedule some official and more formal meetings that are occasions, to talk to each other and tell us what's going on and what matter and what can we do and what can be done and so on. And so the formal meetings can have many different aspects, but the most important one, I would say, it would be the final exhibition. So we have 3 days in September where we invite the whole community to this final exhibition, which takes place in the municipality. So that would be the most important event, we build around it. So I know I'm talking very specific about a specific public administration in a specific place, in a specific nation, but I think that starting from this small example, there are some very important lessons that we can, gather for future and many different approaches. So at the end, feel free to ask me any questions about that. While we're building Adimora, also an important part was communication. So what is Adimora and how can it be perceived from font, from the color palette and so on. And so what was important to us in Lama was to have a proper Adimora feel. And if you have time later and would like to browse our website or our Instagram profile, please let me know if we managed to to convey the message we wanted to convey, which was that Adimora is analogic, is slow, is warm, is taken care of, is let's say it's curated, it's taken care in a very homey and cozy way. So that was our main goal and the identity that we built around it. Here are some pictures because I like the pictures that artists took. So I put them in a couple of more. And a small overview about the 2023 edition, which was the first one. It was our pilot. So we are still learning and from it, and we're still, building on it because we want to improve and try to still, tune in and do the final touches for these next 2 editions. Actually, in the first edition, we had 4 artists. The fourth is actually the one who took all the nice pictures I used. It's Jacopo Seri, and he was let's say his grant was made possible by another Cultural Europe funding, which is Future Diversity Project. And so his goal was to put down all the future diversity practices and to focus on the local community and the social engagement, which are the most important pillars, like I said before. Small overview of the final artwork. So in this kind of artistic residencies, we asked people to do research, but also to produce an artwork. They're very different. I will not go into details, but there is a wonderful website that you can browse later. But what I just wanted to highlight was that we managed to see two communal issues that were tackled. So the first one is that most of the artworks were temporary, so performative, and so that tells us a lot about the way that the artists perceived what was needed by the community. So the community, it was felt that they needed to gather around, to talk, to exchange, to be together, and to build different and new traditions and so on. And the other part was that the main themes around which the artworks revolved around was tradition, local tradition, folklore, and so on, and nature. Nature seen from different points of view. It could be agricultural history, it could be the variety of nature, it could be the way we bond with nature. But still, these are the main themes that were tackled. And here is a small overview of the project. This was a sound installation made by Agnese Banti. And it took place in the main square of the town. It was at the stroke of the hour, a song would resonate for 2 days. This is Pane per Pane by Albero Nero. This is one of the performances I was telling you about. So it's 2 communities, one in Londra and one nearby, coming together, restoring their tradition of bread making, bread kneading, and herb picking, and finding each other together in the woods to share and explore what they did with this bread, which was actually very delicious. This is the only permanent, actually, intervention, which is by Simone Carraro. This is a natural cave that he found, and where he painted this beautiful mural filled with symbols that talk about the history of the land, and also talk about agriculture and how it changed, throughout the history. The cave also can work as a natural theater, as a natural amphitheater. And so the wish of the artist was that people could still use it in, I don't know, in a 10-year time to gather around, to play music, just to enjoy, to have a picnic and so on. It's very easy to access it. And the last one is Jacopo Seri, which was the 4th artist, like I told you about. He worked especially with community engagement, as you can see here. So here he did this beautiful performance at the pitch of the mountain at sunset, where people would gather around and chant together without speaking, but making sounds that would remind them of nature. So whistling, howling like the wolves and so on. And Jacopo would be the orchestra director. I'm about to finish. So another important part is dissemination. Like I told you before, one of the main way we can disseminate, so we can tell the story of Adimora. And this is especially very important when we work in different circuits than the regular institutional and cultural ones. So again, not in museums, so far from big cities. Sometimes it's not that easy to access, so sometimes it's just the news doesn't get out. And so we have to tell our story and make sure these memories are recorded. And so we did a final exhibition in Londra. We also did a very small interactive exhibition in Florence because it's a bigger, a bigger spot for cultural events. Also, we printed 300 catalogs that tell the story, both in English and Italian. We did a website, and we also did a documentary about the whole process and the whole experience, which is very important because most of the pieces and the experience, it's temporary, it's ephemeral, and so we need the memory, to go on. And before saying goodbye and finishing, what about the future is a good question that I asked myself, and we asked ourselves when we were planning the next 2 years of Adimora. So in the next editions, we have 3 main goals. One is to strengthen the project's relationship with the community. So we want to be more and more on site, and we want to be more and more involved, and we want to make sure that people know what's going on. And so they don't feel like they're being invaded, by these weird people they call artists. And also we want to build a stronger communicating strategy, both online and offline. This is important, for dissemination. So to tell, what's going on and to inform people, but also to engage. And last but not least, we would like to place Adimora also in the artistic circuit. So it would be important for us to make sure that Adimora becomes a spot, becomes a thing, an issue in the art community, and it becomes a project and also a place and a space known, so that we can attract more people, more artists, curators, and practitioners to see this beautiful place and to feel that this is a place for culture. And last but not least, and this is an important note because I see in the audience we have a couple of girls who actually work with me in Adimora, Giulia Piera. So another and final important ally when we're doing this kind of work, especially in rural areas and in areas which are not accustomed to a big, let's say, cultural production, it's cultural mediation. Cultural mediation is a tool, is a mean that can make the experience of art democratic and enjoyable for everyone. So we wanted to ensure that the people living there had this support as this guide throughout the final exhibition, which lasted 3 days. And so the people, the girls would help me and would go to the people and talk to them and engage them and answer their questions, which is very, very important because it makes people feel heard and it makes art feel less scary and less, let's say, abstract. So having people working as a bridge between the public and the artwork, it's fundamental. And also it's a very important experience for young students from the Academy of Fine Arts and the University of Florence to have a small internship in a different context. So in a rural area with a public administration and with a pilot like Adimora was. So I'm done. I'm sorry, maybe I took a bit of more time than I was supposed to, but this is like, thank you. And if you have any questions, I will gladly answer them.
Thank you, Martina. Thank you a lot. And I see Mark. Hi, Mark. I'm glad you did it.
Hi, sorry I'm late. Childcare.
No worries, perfect. The right time. Yeah, we went through our case studies, and the last one is the Lunga School or Langa School. How do we can pronunciate it?
Normally go for Lunga.
Lunga.
But it varies.
Okay, so I leave the floor to you to tell us about the Lunga School, and then we can move to the breakout rooms.
Great. Thank you very much. Sorry for coming in so late. And I'm just getting myself together. Do you have my presentation?
Yeah, do you want us to share it or do you want to use it at your own? I have it
If
here.
you can do that,
Yeah.
that would be great. Just because
Yeah.
I've just got in.
Yep.
Thank you very much. So yeah, this is basically I just wanted to talk about Lunga School a little bit, but my name is Mark Rotmer Jackson. And if I could have the first slide, is that working?
Can you see the slide?
No, it's black at the moment.
Okay.
I might be able to get there we go, there he is. Okay, so that's me. I'm Mark Rotmer Jackson. I'm a artist, curator, and just to give you a context of where I'm coming from, and I used to run an art gallery. I used to be a curator of an art gallery in London called IMT Gallery, which was a contemporary art gallery that specialized in performance, alternative practices, interdisciplinary practice. And I also taught art history and critical theory and curatorial studies up at Northumbria University in the north of England. But when building a research project about alternative arts education, I came across Lunga School in Seyðisfjörður in the east of Iceland. Sorry, if you could do the next slide. Thank you. Lunga School was really fascinating as a alternative education system that prioritized a kind of anti-instrumentalism of education and a very open artistic engagement with practice for the participants. But what became really interesting was its relationship to the town in which it exists. So I'm going to talk a little bit about that as well. Yeah, next slide. So this is Seyðisfjörður, where I'm at the moment. It's a small town of about 660 odd regular residents in the east of Iceland. So the whole other side of the country from Reykjavik, where most of 80% of the population of Iceland lives. Seyðisfjörður is essentially a town encircled by mountains. There's only one road out to the nearest town, which also has an airport. But there is a ferry that goes from Seyðisfjörður out through the fjord all the way to Denmark. So it's a very particular type of place. It's very isolated, it's very rural, and the art school arrived there through a really interesting set of circumstances. So firstly, the art school operates outside of the tourist season, outside of the season where the visitors arrive, which is beginning to pick up now in April, and then that runs all the way through the summer. And so outside of that season, the town is essentially emptied of the vast numbers of people who come here to see the beautiful landscape. And those spaces that they occupy during the summer, the hostels, the hotels, the bistros, the other infrastructure that supports the tourist season, they are utilized by the school. So essentially the school becomes a kind of shares the infrastructure that would otherwise be unused. And the really interesting part of that is that obviously benefits the residents of the town. Like the bistro, for example, would otherwise be closed. There are other facilities for a town of this size, such as, surprising for a town of this size, the only cinema in the east of Iceland, for example. There's a hospital and a swimming pool. And a lot of these facilities would be less easy to justify or operate without some kind of constant flow, which the school provides during the winter season. So the school started rather unusually as a music festival back in 2000, run by teenagers from Seyðisfjörður who were looking for something to make the town more interesting in the summer and to avoid making the trip through the mountains. And in 2013, the festival gave birth to the school. And the school was really an idea of a group of artists who wanted to create a situation, an artistic creative project somewhere. Sometimes they talk about it as a place to hide or a place for an excuse, a different type of practice that they couldn't get elsewhere. And an idea of a school became the clearest one. And this slide you're looking at now is one of the workshops with local residents of the town that the school operates. But for the most part, the school is occupied by participants between the ages of 18 and I think the oldest participant's been 42. So yeah, sorry, next slide. So this is the cinema, which is, like I said, the only cinema in the east of Iceland. This is a morning gathering of the art school from last year. No, 2022, I think this photograph is from. And also the way in which spaces like this become accessible to us is because Seyðisfjörður has for many years been a hub for artists and creatives, dating back to characters like the Swiss artist Ita Roth, who fled the European art scene for the quiet of the fjord, and has since become a kind of port of call for creatives and bohemians arriving on boat from Denmark or in plane over from Reykjavik at the other side of the country. And it's a kind of unique space for cultural initiatives because of that. So there's a generosity to the town for institutions like Lunga School. And we work very much in collaboration with other organizations, such as there's the Herdebrede Community and Cultural Centre, the Heimar Art Collective, and other organizations. Thank you. Sorry, my daughter's asking me to finish her drawing for her, so I'm just going to do that. It'll take a few seconds. There we go. Is that better? So there's also Skaftfell Art Centre, which is quite a big art gallery in it for a small town. The Skallaness Nature Reserve we work with, and the Herdubria with the cinema. And because we're a small town, cut off from other places in Iceland for some parts of the year, we just had this last weekend the road closure, which meant several people got stranded in or outside of the town for a few days. Because of the snow. So because of that, these organizations share resources, and that makes a really rich environment for creative practice, because there are things you otherwise might not be able to get, even in a big city, that are somehow accessible in the fjord. And this photograph you're looking at here is a view out of the Netty, which is a studio, art studio for the school, one of the buildings we own, that was given to us by the fishing industry in Seyðisfjörður, which is a 100-year-old industry, but has slowly been scaled down as the production process of the industry has become automized, and the spaces that they had are no longer suitable. So because they realized that the fjord, the town, stays alive through initiatives like Lungaskóli, these spaces then become available to us, which is fantastic. So we're very much supported by the town, and the infrastructure is there to allow us to do what we need to do. And we have there's certain features of the school that also kind of open it out to the community in unusual ways. So we have no students or teachers, we are only participants. We see all of the people who work at the school as here to study, in a sense. I'm the director of the school, but I feel as that I'm on the one hand learning how to be a director of an art school, and also I'm a curator, really, because the art school is an artwork. So it's an artwork to care for that's created by the participants as a new school each program. And the programs themselves are about 12 weeks long. Each program is 12 weeks long, and runs either from when the sun's in the fjord through to the darkness of winter, or the darkness of winter to the light of spring, because as you probably know, during the winter in Iceland we lose the sunlight, and that has a profound effect on the type of art that's made. It has a profound effect on what that does to the town. There's light festivals that the participants get involved in. There's a farewell to the sun at the end of the year. And so these short 3-month art programs and land programs work with the seasons, with the flow of the particular weather patterns in the fjord. Sorry, next slide, I think. Is there? Oh, maybe I missed a slide. No worries. So yeah, that's essentially the scope of it. The participants come from all over the world. We've just opened the call for the fall program for art. We have a land program, which instead of being an art program is about working with the environment around us, either as artists or creatives or otherwise people who want to do something interesting with the land that the fjord exists on. Then the program goes to sleep for the summer. The tourists arrive, and the fjord changes into something else. But essentially, the reason why the reason we can exist in this particular place is because of the generosity of the community and the way that the school provides an important source of life during the winter months for that community, and uses spaces that would otherwise be empty. So yeah, are there any questions?
Thank you, Mark.
Pleasure.
We are a little bit late with our agenda, so maybe if people have questions, they can make them to you directly in the breakout rooms. And also, since not all of you guys have booked a slot with our super cool Excel file for the expert corner, yeah, with Jose, we thought to just open the doors of the breakout rooms. We have these 4 rooms, so I just make a recap. We have me to deep the aspect of development strategies for non-urban areas that are culture driven. Martina, which is available to deep the aspect of how to organize artistic residencies, and also to deep the topic of cultural mediation, which is very important. And we have Marcus Lampe, for you who are interested also of course, to ask to him about Trans-Europulse and all the cultural spaces of the network, but also to deep the aspect of business models for cultural spaces. So how can those spaces stay have their economic sustainability? And with Mark, you can delve the topic of the schools. So how can we bring artistic-led alternative education in rural areas? So, Jose, you can just maybe open the breakout rooms, and we ask to all of you to choose one of these 4. And looking at the time, I think we will have only 2 rounds. So the first round will last 20 minutes, and then Jose will close the breakout rooms and reopen them for the second round. Okay?
Okay, I'm going to open the rooms. If you have some problem to enter, just write me in the chat, and I'm going to assign you to the room that you want. I'm going to open it.
Hello. How are you? Ready for the next round? Did you have the chance to yeah, okay.
Okay, I think that everybody's here. I'm not sure, but I'm going to close all the rooms and I'm going to do it again, and you can choose again.
Hello. How was it? The expert corner. Did you like it?
Yes. Nice.
Cool.
It's a great format, no? Very good.
I'm glad. Okay. We don't have any time to make a third round. It's 6 o'clock. So we thank all of you, especially our speakers, Marcus, Mark, Martina. Everyone started with Mark. I don't know why. This is a coincidence. Very, very big thank to you.
Thank you, Alessandra. I just want to remember everybody that the next Wednesday we have another webinar about participation processes, thought and included as a processes in spaces regeneration process. So it's going to be a very interesting webinar, and if you're interested, will be great your participation. Marina says that maybe because they're marvelous. Thank you, Marina. And I don't know. I think
I called Marina, and this is
Marina, of course. So thank you, Alessandra. We can close this webinar. Thank you
all
to
the participants. Have a nice evening to all of you.
goodbye.
Thank you.
Bye-bye. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you very much. Bye.